final quarter begins right now.
And welcome to the final quarter on CBS 8+. I'm Jake Garriani. That is John Howard and Karthik Venkatraman. A bombshell of news today for the San Diego Padres. And what has already been an insane offseason. Mike Shildt abruptly retires. Craig Stammen, the surprise hire to us on the outside looking in. And now this today, the Seidler family and the Padres announcing that that family, the Seidlers, are exploring the sale of the San Diego Padres. Shocking news, I think, to all of us. And there was an idea that this maybe was coming after Peter's death 2 years ago and then the Shildt-Seidler lawsuit. But to hear the actual words, to see the press release from the San Diego Padres that says the Seidler family is exploring the sale of the San Diego Padres had my jaw on the floor. I don't know about you two.
Yeah, I woke up this morning. I was pretty surprised, I'll tell you that much. John, what was your reaction?
Well, yeah, pretty surprised, although there's been chattering about it. And I think what has ended up happening here, the Seidler family took care of the Padres in the transition after Peter's death, and I don't know that the family members have the passion for the Padres that Peter had. There's some good alliteration there in that sentence, but they didn't have the passion that Peter has, and so I think they just kind of want to get rid of the burden of running this team since they don't, have the desire and the passion that Peter did to run it.
And here is what John Seidler, the current control person and chairman of the San Diego Padres, said, and then we'll kind of break it down with our thoughts. But John had this in that press release. The family has decided to begin a process of evaluating our future with the Padres, including a potential sale of the franchise. We will undertake this process with integrity and professionalism in a way that honors Peter's legacy and love for the Padres and lays the foundation for the franchise's long-term success. During the process and as we prepare for the 2026 season, the Padres will continue to focus on its players, employees, fans, and community while putting every resource into winning a World Series championship. We remain fully committed to this team, its fans, in the San Diego community. So that's their end of the story with what John Seidler had to say. I think a lot of reaction has already come out about this possible sale of the San Diego Padres. Frustration, sadness for a lot of people in the idea that Peter Seidler's vision will not come to fruition. His kids won't get to inherit his team. The Seidlers themselves will not bring a World Series championship to the city of San Diego if it doesn't happen next year and this sale goes through. But Karthik, your thoughts on this entire sale, or possible sale, I will say, of the San Diego Padres?
Yeah, here's the thing. It's just like, I know Padres fans are probably sitting here and they're like, we want Peter Seidler's kids, the movie ending of, bringing this team a franchise championship. That'd be a long time from now. I mean, like, it's one of those things that it would take some time to go and develop. And also on top of that, with the Padres, if this family, like John said, if they're not interested in keeping the team, then the Padres fans shouldn't probably want them as the owners. There's, a goal to be achieved of finding the success, getting the right money into this club, and winning the World Series. That is the goal. John Seidler said in the press release that will be, as they look at Peter Seidler and what his vision was to go and achieve that success and win a championship with the potential sale of this team. And I also thought it was really important in the press release that they're keeping the community in San Diego in the forefront of the mind. So when, potentially we're talking about this, I hope that means whoever they're selling it to intends, in all intents and purposes, for the very long-term future, forever and for always, this team stays in San Diego. So those are the things that I read when I was reading the press release, the things that stood out most to me. Obviously, the Padres have a lease with Petco Park all the way till 2033, so that keeps them, in the realm of staying there with a ballpark. And they have a lot of high attendance and everything. So I think when people look at this sale, potential sale, when you're looking at it, you don't look at it as, okay, the team's going to relocate. I wouldn't be focused on that part. What I would be focused on is more so, if someone were to buy this team, can they get somebody that's going to put the money and all the resources into it, like Peter Seidler did and wanted to with this team, to make them achieve the most success that they potentially could. That's what you want in your next owner if this team goes up for sale. Can you find an owner who's willing to put the money, resources, and cares about this thing like Peter did to try and help them win that World Series?
And I think there's a lot of the fear of the unknown, a lot of what you just laid out there, Karthik, right? There is the fear like, oh my gosh, could somebody buy the Padres and move them? You just put up a couple of reasons why that's really not a reasonable thought. Not to mention the Padres were second in attendance in all of Major League Baseball. The product is just about a perfect match here in San Diego. So again, reiterating what you said, I don't think relocation is anything to really be thinking about. But the other fear of the unknown is, yeah, who's that next owner? Will they have that passion that you just laid out? Will they want to make the Padres the best they possibly can be? And I feel like this day and age, and John, you can argue or not, but I feel like this day and age, if you're going to spend $2+ billion on a product, you're going to want to invest in that and continue to make that product as good as it possibly can be. The days of the owners that don't really put any money into their franchise feels a little bit done, because those owners that don't put that money into their franchise have been in that position for a long time, sitting there collecting their paychecks. Now, there are anomalies out there, but I just feel like if you're going to put in $2.5 billion to buy the San Diego Padres, you're not just going to buy it and go, all right, I got it, let's just let it sit here and make its own money. I feel like they would invest in that, but until the team is potentially sold and we're a few years down the line under new ownership, we won't know any of that. But it just seems like those unknown fears I understand from the fans, but I don't know. I don't want to call this a bad thing that the Seidlers are exploring this option. And nothing, of course, is final yet. But at that same time, to both of your guys' points, like, if this goes the way that it might, it could be an honorable thing for John and the Seidler family, who's also going through that lawsuit with Shield, to step aside and go, look, this argument between who's the control person of the team and this passion that maybe we do or do not have that you laid out, John, like, if they don't actually have that, then it could be the honorable thing to go find the right owner that does have that and go, hey, you now continue Peter's vision overall.
Yeah, I think it's a practicality thing amongst the Seidler family right now. Kind of as I mentioned before, we don't have the passion for it. There's a lot of mental headaches going on with the lawsuit with Shield and maintaining the ongoing processes of owning a baseball organization. Let's professionally and tactfully sell our shares in it and be done with it. And no, the Seidler kids won't get to see that World Series championship unless it happens this year. But they'll get a lot of money, or maybe they can go buy another baseball team or some other organization or invest it the way they want. They won't go away empty-handed. That is for certain. The press release was very well written, very professionally written, and leads the fan to believe that everything's going to be fine and dandy. The one little phrase I question in it is that they will put every resource towards winning a World Series. And now that they've kind of entered a lame duck time, if you will they really put every resource in? You know, I don't think they're going to go out and sign some $400 million player right now, as they've got to be concerned about the selling price of the franchise. So I don't really know that they'll be putting every resource in, but to the point the two of you made, they do want to find that owner that does want to do that. Finding that owner that did what Peter did. I mean, Peter opened his checkbook, you know, to the shock of all of us. The way that he was spending money and purchasing personnel was outstanding. So it's a matter of finding somebody that wants to spend the $2 million. I like Jake. He said couple billion, and then he bumped it to $2.5 billion in one sentence. Who knows what the organization's going to go for? But I think the Rays went for 1.7 a year or two ago. So I think $2 billion is probably an accurate estimate. And this is a dime. It's not a diamond in a rough. It's a jewel. The way this organization is put together right now, the ballpark they play in, the crowd that comes. I mean, the only down thing about baseball in San Diego is TV revenue. They don't have the TV revenue of the big markets. And so that's the only knock. And there's talk about TV revenue adjustments in the new collective bargaining agreement. So we're going to have to see what happens with CBA discussions as well. So much in play, but going to be very intriguing to see what plays out here as this team comes up for sale.
Yeah, really well said. So much in play. And when it really gets boiled down to, because I've seen a lot of frustration out there, is that so many fans were promised the Peter Seidler vision after he passed. The organization, the people taking over, from Eric Kutsenda to John Seidler to Eric Grupner, all these people saying, look, this vision is our main goal. Peter Seidler's vision will be carried out throughout this franchise. That's what he wanted. In fact, so much so, I was looking back through video of when I was out at spring training earlier this year. This is February of 2025, when this exact question about the sale of the San Diego Padres after Peter Seidler's death was asked to Eric Grupner. Take a listen.
I have been told multiple times that the team is not for sale and will not be sold. The Seidler family has viewed this team as a generational asset. Peter spoke about that. The rest of his family has continued to speak about that. This team is not going to be relocated. This team is not going to be sold. The commitment remains to keep this team in the current ownership that it's in right now and continue to run it the way we've been running it.
So either a bold-faced lie or something changed between February and now November of this year. But I can see where the frustration comes from for a lot of fans, being promised one thing and now nothing is final again, but now being told that they're exploring options of a sale. I mean, that's a little telling, isn't it, Karthik?
I remember when the lawsuit came out before the season between Shiel Seidler and, the brothers and, that ownership group that was trying to and eventually did become. Shiel said that they were looking to trade or sell the team, and then they had pretty much said, no, that's not true. And then you ran that Eric Grupner soundbite, and it is kind of funny that we're here. I don't think a lot of people took Shiel seriously in a lot of what she said, but here we are. I mean, she kind of called the shot, and, we're at a point where, it's not a for sure thing. Potential still, ifs, muts, and maybes, but, it could happen.
I find it very interesting. He called it a generational ownership. Well, yeah, but I think what's happened in the last 8 months since spring training, I think things have changed and there's just been too many headaches, and so they want to sell. Very interestingly, and for the first time ever, I noticed in that soundbite, if you go back and look at it, look at Kevin Acee. He's the beat writer for the Padres, knows the organization inside and out. And toward the end of that soundbite, he's smirking. He's smirking as if he knows Grupner maybe isn't being totally forthright in all the information he's given in that soundbite. So very intriguing. If you go back and look at that soundbite, check out Kevin Acee as he's kind of almost starting to chuckle.
At this point, the big question remains, if the sale goes through, will the Padres do what they say is the right thing and continue with Peter's vision, find the right owner to take over and go through with that? Or have we all just had the wool pulled over our eyes for the last few years, and this is going to get a bunch of money to the rest of the family, and the Padres, who knows what happens at that point? That is pretty much the question that will be left to be answered as we go through what is a possible sale of the San Diego Padres. And this was just not even the beginning of the week. On Monday, Craig Stammen was announced as the new manager of the San Diego Padres, which really took everybody by surprise. There he is putting on the jerseys. Who would have known 2 days later the possible sale of the San Diego Padres and the search of a buying partner came out for San Diego. So it's just crazy that this was all in the same week. I guess quick thoughts, since we haven't been able to talk about it, even though it is not headline A. Craig Stammen becoming the manager of the Friars.
Very quickly, since we have the video of him there with A.J. Preller, there was a lot of talk, are they going to sign Preller to an extended deal? His deal ends this year, and I got the feeling now with the potential sale of the team, they're not going to sign him to a multi-year extension. I think maybe they might just ride him out or maybe give him 1 year through 2027, because whoever the new ownership would be, they would want to have control or at least some continuity through their first year of ownership. So I don't foresee A.J. Preller, for one, being signed to a long-term extension. My thoughts on Craig Stammen being hired, I've said it more than once on air. I have no idea if this is a good hire. We'll obviously find out. But I do know it is a good man that they hired. He's a class act, both on the field and off the field with the media. But it'll just be very intriguing to see how he does in the managerial role.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, it's just like we're at a point of I'm not really going to know what he is and what he's about until baseball games are played. And who knows what ends up happening with a collective bargaining agreement if we get that sooner or later. But my point being is what I got out of his press conference were a couple of things. One thing that concerned me was when he was talking about how he would be about in the ball club and stuff like that. I'm interested to see how much he's able to separate friendship from these guys he was on a team with so much from, to push them to that new level that he kept talking about, and whether he can find that right line. I do think to a certain extent, like I explained this to Jake on the phone the other day. I was just like, hey, if I had a best buddy and we were really good friends, and then all of a sudden you were telling me, like, pushing me a little bit here and there, and like, I would probably take it cool. I love Jake, but I don't know if that's going to be the case for everybody. And what is that chemistry going to be like? I think is something interesting. I don't know how it'll work out. Greg's a cool dude. I'm sure he'll figure out in that realm. The other part of this is when we came into this, the Padres were looking for a guy that's going to be around for the long term. Craig Stammen has a lot of young kids, and I'm not going to try and stay or talk about his family life for too much more. But I do think once you get into this, he's never been a coach. He's never been a manager. Once he gets into 162-plus potential playoff games of a year, how much does that wear on you? You're not going to get to spend a ton of time with your family. Yes, he was a player, so he already understands that part of his life. But even with stuff like that, when we're talking about long term, and he was hesitant even applying and considering for this job because of his family being in Ohio, and they had to contemplate over this. Those are two things that give me a little pause. That being said, I do think Craig Stammen seems like a very nice guy, very intelligent guy. I think he is going to be kind of a player's coach in the way that we saw Mike Schilt was defending his players fiercely. I think those are a lot of good things. But I really, these are all just concerns and really unknowns for me. I really want to see how it plays out, and then obviously I'll have better opinion then.
Yeah, the longevity after Craig was announced kind of popped in as a question for me too. I wonder how long this will last as far as him and his kids, as far as now knowing more about where the organization is headed, and kind of all of the above as far as how long will Craig Stammen stay in that managerial position for the San Diego Padres. We'll find out how good of a manager he is soon enough. And as far as the A.J. Preller stuff goes, Dennis Lin, the great writer for The Athletic, he did mention, I'm dropping stuff.
What happened?
He did mention dropping mics and stuff.
Is that your hairspray?
Yeah, exactly. He did mention that a deal for A.J. Preller, an extension, was imminent and that they thought this was going to get done. Kevin Acee also wrote in his article today about the sale that they still think that the A.J. Preller extension will happen. As far as everything they've said, it's going to be business as usual. And after getting Craig Stammen hired, at the top of that list of business as usual would be an extension for A.J. Preller. We'll find out if it's all talk or if it is reality here really shortly. Who knows the way this week's going? Maybe tomorrow the extension will be announced for A.J. Preller. Before we move on, let's hear from the new skipper of the San Diego Padres, Craig Stammen.
Craig, how much of a challenge do you think it will be to have zero managerial experience going into this?
Yeah, it'll be a challenge for sure. I got a big learning curve ahead of me. That'll be something that I'm going to really put a lot of work in this offseason. A lot of conversation with AJ, Josh, a lot of the other coaching staff. But also part of that, I've got some guys in my corner already that are on staff, like Ruben, that have tons of coaching experience. Been in the dugout for playoff games, been in the dugout for long seasons. And so I'm going to rely on a lot of people in the organization. The best part about this Padres organization is the people that we have and how great they are at all of their jobs. And I'm going to rely on all those people. This isn't a one-man Craig Stammen show.
All right, so there you go. Craig Stammen going to rely on guys like Ruben Niebla, who's still a part of that staff, and they obviously need to hire a third base coach and a bench coach and a couple of things there, but most of the staff will stay intact. And here we go. Never a lack of drama with the San Diego Padres. We spent plenty of time on them. Let's quickly wrap up with a few other topics, including the San Diego State Aztecs football team. A hell of a hiccup in Hawaii. My goodness, they got the brakes beat off of them down there on the Big Island. But now everything that they really have in their vision as far as a Mountain West title still sits in front of them. Taking on Boise State this weekend, first place in the conference. Big hiccup, John, in Hawaii, as I mentioned, but still a lot of what they want to accomplish in front of them, yeah?
Absolutely. What Hawaii spoiled was talk of going to the college football playoff, but still, conference title hopes very much intact. The other little bit of a headache here with the big game against Boise State Saturday night is the weather. Rain now heavily predicted for Saturday night, which I think is going to hurt the turnout. And turnout has been the only other topic of discussion for the Aztecs this year. They've been great on the field, a 7-2 record. They've basically got a bowl appearance clinched. They're still very much alive. In fact, probably the front runner, I might say, for the conference championship. But people are still not turning out. And now with rain Saturday, I think that's going to hurt the turnout at Snapdragon Stadium as well.
Yeah, I know you talked about the rain in Hawaii and all that jazz, and that didn't bode well for San Diego State. But if I'm talking about rain, I'm talking about home. San Diego State, undefeated at home. San Diego State typically plays great defense. Hopefully they'll have Chris Johnson back for this game on Saturday against Boise State. That'd be huge. They didn't have it against Hawaii. So defense plays well in the rain. They run the ball well. typically, not too much in Hawaii game. But, those things bode well for them in the rain. And, this is a big opportunity for San Diego State, and it can't be undermined. If they were to win this game against Boise State, they control their own destiny when it comes to winning and getting to that Mountain West Conference title game, something that they have not accomplished, winning it all, since 2016. This game is probably the biggest game for this school football-wise in quite some time, because I asked Sean Lewis, I was at practice yesterday, I asked, how do you get to the success level of where you want to go? He said, trying, we're not trying, we're already there. Okay, well, put your money where your mouth is right here and get the job done against Boise State, because that one against Hawaii, they lost in their college football playoff hopes. This is the last thing. When we started the season, they said two things. Want to win Mountain West Conference title, they want to make it to the college football playoff. College football playoff's done. Mountain West Conference title still on the line. Got to get the job done against Boise State at home. Hopefully their ticket sales that they're bringing out for these fans to come out ends up working, even in the rain. San Diego State needs to show up this weekend. It would be huge if we're talking about the future of this program, getting fans involved, people wanting to root for this team. John, what do you say all the time? They got to put a winner on the field. They've won a lot, but you got to make statements and statement games, and this is one of those for San Diego State.
As you meant, go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, well put. That's exactly what it is. We haven't won the conference title in a decade now, and like Karthik is saying, this is the biggest football game in a decade for the Aztecs.
The team that has won the conference title in back-to-back years are those Boise State Broncos. So, Sean Lewis, how do you beat them?
Historically, two of the best programs in the league, right? So if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best, right? And last year, obviously, they won the conference. They went to the CFP, right? They were picked yet again for however many years in a row, or X number of years out of the past 20 years to win the conference, right? So our guys know what it is. We're not going to shy away from that. They're a really good team. Game respects game. And to your point, right, like it really became a thing when you knew it was one of these two programs that was going to bring home the conference championship. And the work that our kids have done, most importantly, have put us back in that conversation again.
There's going to be a lot of drama behind that game, John, almost as much drama as waiting for that soundbite.
Exactly. The one thing I want to say is it's amazing what they've done, especially when you consider they were picked to finish 8th in conference this season. So kudos to Coach Sean Lewis.
Been a brilliant season. They can really make it a special one with a win on Saturday against the Broncos. Let's quickly move on to SDFC. They wrapped up their 3-game series against the Portland Timbers, a 4-0 beatdown in Game 3 at Snapdragon, to move on to the Western Conference semifinals, where they will host Minnesota United. Now, MLS, kind of a funky schedule. They're right in the middle of an international break, so that match against Minnesota United will not be until Monday, November 24th. Heck of a showing for SDFC against Portland. And your thoughts on Minnesota. Let's wrap this show up with that, you two.
Yeah, for sure. San Diego FC really put a statement. We're talking about statements for San Diego State. San Diego FC put a statement on Portland in that Game 3. I'll tell you what, I'm so impressed with Dreyer. Every single time they need a clutch moment, this guy comes up clutch. I called him Superman after they won that Game 3, because that's what this guy is. He's their MVP. I don't care if he's MVP of the MLS. He's a baller. And we were talking after Milan Alaski, who was going to be that guy who goes and scores the goals, maybe is just able to help that much more. I thought maybe Marcus Ingvartsen. He never could really stay healthy. They signed Corey Bard. He's been good, but he's not been that guy. Amal Pellegrino, he's that dude, and he's one heck of a soundbite too, man. The way that he's been able to score goals off the left wing and with the confidence he has, this is a guy that went through so much injury issues, so much, mental to just get himself in. He's a veteran in this game, and for what he's been able to do for San Diego FC to help them keep advancing in this MLS Cup playoffs, legit.
Yeah, and it's just amazing what this team has done in their inaugural season. They're trying to become just the 3rd MLS expansion team ever to win the MLS Cup. They're very much alive for it. I believe it was the Chicago Fire and Atlanta United that both won the MLS Cup in their expansion seasons. So it's rare territory, but still some work to be done. Been amazing what they've done this season. I can't wait to see what they do against Minnesota on that Monday night.
And mind you, what they did against Portland was without Chucky Lozano for the most part. Didn't play Game 1, came off the bench in 2 and 3. Did make impacts in 2 and 3 coming off the bench. I would expect him to start against Minnesota United, but I've been saying that for like 3 weeks. So who knows what Mikey Varas will do with Chucky Lozano. They also won that Game 3 with a clean sheet with their backup goalkeeper, Pablo Cisniega, between the bars. So everything they've done has been that next up man fan mentality, and they've done it to perfection. Before we go, let's quickly hear from the head coach, Mikey Vargas.
What are the challenges of having that the delay with the international window?
It's only opportunities. It's opportunity to get some guys a little bit of much needed recovery in the next few days after a very physical series. And then it's time to prepare against a completely different opponent. So we see it as two different opportunities. And again, because our culture is one of competition, I mean, these guys will be flying in 2 weeks. We'll be ready for it.
Yeah, they're on the international break, so they don't play this weekend. We got to go all the way to Monday, November 24th, 7 p.m. at Snapdragon Stadium until we'll see. Jake, you mentioned before the soundbite, Chucky Lozano starting. I'm not so sure that he will. I think the only way that he does is if Corey Bard goes to the bench and then they put him in that middle position, because I just don't think, because Chucky usually plays on that left side, I just don't think you can take out Pellegrino. He's been 6 goals and 3 assists over the last 5 matches. The dude's been insane.
Hell of a weapon off the bench, too, if you need it, with Chucky Lozano. Although you are paying him $1 bazillion, you may want him to start some matches. But Mikey Vargas has pulled all the right levers this season. I'll leave it up to him. We will be back next week. Unlike SDFC, we will have more for you on the final quarter on CBS 8+. What a wild week. I don't even know what else to say.
I got one more thing, real quick. Do we got time? Okay. With the MLS, multiple national reports saying that Apple TV is all you'll be needing moving forward to watch games. You don't need the MLS season pass. In a day and age where we are paying so much for subscriptions for so many different places, yes, finally someone's taking down an extra paywall. Pay less to watch the MLS. I love it.
We're almost out of music, and Karthik's promoting other streaming services. Let's get the heck out of here, huh? Watch on.
I'm saying Aztecs knock off Boise State Saturday night, and they're in the driver's seat for the Mountain West Conference Championship.
There you have it. Have a great week. We'll see you soon.